Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to this evening's meeting, May 25th, 2022. This is our regularly scheduled board meeting, and I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and establish a quorum.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar.
Yes.
All right, I'd like to notify the audience that this meeting will be recorded and viewable afterwards on YouTube. And may I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Wow.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar.
Yes.
So before we head into the Pledge of Allegiance, in lieu of yesterday's events in Olvade, Texas, I would like to say something and have a moment of silence. The CUSD Board of Education meeting will begin with this moment of silence for the victims of the horrific shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. We mourn their families and friends and the entire community after this unspeakable tragedy. So with that, please join me in a moment of silence for these families and all the victims. All right, thank you, everybody. I just wanted to acknowledge that tragic event that happened, and I know we're all thinking about it, so thank you. And with that, we'll go into the Pledge of Allegiance. Hannah, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? All right, so we're going to move along to agenda item E. This is our updates from our student representative, ACT, CSCA, Board of Education, and our superintendent. These are all just routine updates of meetings and events and developments that have transpired over the past 2 weeks since we last met. So we'll start then we'll start this evening with Hannah.
Thank you so much. So, yes, these past 2 weeks since the last board meeting, there's definitely a lot to report. It's been very, very busy and exciting as we close out on the year. Last Saturday, we had prom, which was, as I mentioned earlier, absolutely spectacular. There's just been rave reviews all week. Everyone had a blast, fun music, gorgeous venue. There was just so much hard work that really, really paid off, and it was really, really beautiful. And then on Monday, we had our first indoor rally. It was the recognition assembly, which was another huge hit. And there was just very high involvement, high engagement. There was a lot of really, really deserving awards that went out to a ton of students and teachers. We had our mentor of the year, which was Mrs. Randazzo, and then 2 co-teacher of the years, which were Mr. Buren and Mr. MB. And everyone was really, really happy for them. And we also had the scholarship award night, which was last night for the seniors, where they all received some scholarships, which were also really, really well deserved. And it was really nice to see everyone's hard work come to a close, get paid off, really pay off, and like celebrate each other and see how those skills that they've really, really been working on are going to roll into their future and what their school choice was or next year's choices and what they want to study and do. Really, really impressive and nice to all be together again for one last closing celebration. And we've also had, we had Day on the Green on Monday, which was really fun, where we got to have our yearbooks passed out. There was a lot of activities, lunch for everybody, which was another good school bonding to close out the year. And then all of our clubs turned over their leadership because they're planning for the club fair, which is the first week of next school year. So everyone got to finish their club business for the year and have new people running them. And lastly, tonight we have the CCS baseball game and the film festival, which are both really, really big events for the school. I know there's going to be a lot of students attending both of them, and parents and teachers. And that's about it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. We'll move along to our association representatives. We'll start with Mr. Schreier from the Association of Carmel Teachers.
Good evening, Bill Schreier, President, Association of Carmel Teachers. I was sitting here thinking, what was I going to say? And then I watched Hannah give her report, and I knew exactly what I wanted to say. If a measure of how a school district is doing is the students that emerge from it, then A+, because you are incredible. Your presence, your eloquence, and I knew you as a freshman, and you came in already well on your way. But to sit here and watch you speak, who would know you're a high school student? Nobody. So I really appreciate you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Bill. And Lisa Brazil from CSCA.
Hi, Lisa Brazil, CSCA President. Yeah, I also had trouble thinking about what I was going to talk about tonight, but I wanted to start with a thank you for Ted and his team. We just wrapped up negotiations, and it was very successful. Where CSCA will be voting on a TA tomorrow, and we're very excited and grateful and wanted to pass that along. And I also wanted to say thank you to all of our parent groups. I don't know if there are many people here from the parent groups, but I know most of the campuses this last week and next week have had the parent groups come in and thank the staff and teachers and celebrate the students, and it's been really beautiful. There's been so much joy and camaraderie, and we haven't felt that to this degree in a long time, and it's felt really good. So I wanted to thank all of the parent groups from all of the campuses. I've heard other campuses say that's just been really joyful and nice, and that's because of them and pulling together. So that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go with Dr. Knight for a superintendent update.
Thank you. So I've got just 2 topics and then a few events and celebrations. You might remember at last board meeting, we passed a revised policy to our residency with in regards to registering students. So we're going to be sending out residency verification information to all currently enrolled families, and just kind of giving everyone a heads up as a reminder. As a basic aid district, we only receive revenue based on our property taxes, not on a per student basis. So out-of-district students reduce the educational resources that are available to resident students. They increase class size without additional funding. And in addition, when we take those students, that means our neighboring districts who are funded on a per pupil basis lose funding when their students come here. So we've worked diligently this year to refine our residency policies and procedures, and it's one of those years where we're just going to ask everyone to re-register, and then we are going to verify registration and residency yearly after this, just to ensure that all of our students actually reside within our boundaries, or our students of employees. We're going to be retaining a part-time summer registrar this summer so that this work does not fall on the backs of our registrars during the school year, who are already overburdened. So that process will be starting soon, and parents and staff and others will start receiving those notices. Quick update on late start. Over the past couple meetings, we've talked about bringing in a professional to help not only with surveys, but with project management. We have secured Hanover Research, which is a nationwide company that works with school districts across the country. After we secured them, we had access to all of their research and all of their data. I think I found at least a dozen studies on late start, different white papers that they've wrote. There's a meta-analysis of some of the data. So we're working with them. We have a meeting, I believe, tomorrow morning with the person who's going to be our liaison. So we'll have someone who actually works with us on our project. So that's moving forward. We are also narrowing down the sleep specialists that we want to work with, who will come in and again present to this board the research and the science behind sleep and circadian rhythms, as well as hopefully host some community meetings and talk with our parents about what we know about sleep. And we're also hoping, the school year is fleeting, but we're hoping to get at least our first meeting for our late start committee on the books before people leave to move on to other projects over the summer. So moving forward with much of that, and hope to have some more concrete information soon. As far as events and celebrations, also want to thank Hannah for her leadership this year. All the time and effort she's put into her role as a student board member. I know we're all proud of you and thankful for everything that you've done for the district and for your fellow students and all of us. You will be missed, so thank you. As Lisa said, we've continued a great collaborative negotiations process with ACT, CSCA, and the district. I think we've had 2 meetings since we met last as a board, and I'm just continued to be impressed with our staff and their ability, even when we're talking about their benefits and working conditions, they are still student first, and that is definitely refreshing, and very proud to work with that group. Also had a great conversation this last week with Yvonne Thomas. She's the president of the Monterey County branch of the NAACP. We spoke about ways that we can collaborate on inclusion and some of the things that other school districts on the peninsula are doing. She had some great ideas, so I look forward to furthering that relationship. Attended the Palo Corona cross country groundbreaking just down the road. It's a partnership between Big Sur Marathon and others, and that will end up being Carmel's home course for cross country. They did a great job, went out and raised money. We're going to partner on some of the maintenance of keeping that track ready to go, but they did a wonderful job and had a great groundbreaking. Was able to attend River and Tular's open house. I'm sure some of our board members will speak about that. But was just great to see our families in our schools, great to see our teachers and our kids all working together, and how excited our students were. Last Friday, I was here on campus for the Renaissance Fair, which was great to see the 7th graders, all the staff dressed up. Our students are just doing some really awesome things right now, and really fun, kid-centered things that kids should be doing. And a lot of those things in many parts of this country have gone away over the last 20 years with No Child Left Behind and Every Student Succeed Act, and really anything that didn't prepare you to pass a test went away in a lot of places, and I'm very happy that it hasn't here. You're just seeing all kinds of great opportunities for kids to build bonds with their classmates, with their teachers, and really round themselves out as an individual. So that was exciting. We had a great meeting with Me Earth. As you know, we're in the middle of a bit of a leadership transition there, but we had a meeting with a couple of their board members and their interim executive director, and then our team this week. And I continue to be hopeful about that partnership moving forward. Last night in this room, we had a LCAP Educational Partners meeting ran by Blaze. He did a wonderful job working with getting feedback from our parents on the LCAP moving forward, and we got nothing but praise from parents on the work that we're doing. Hannah mentioned the senior awards last night. I know John shared with me that they gave out $270,000 in scholarships last night. So bravo to our staff and students for that. And then finally had a great day today out in classrooms. As I shared with staff after being a lifelong educator and hearing the news yesterday, I think that hit a lot of us really hard. And what I needed today was to just be around kids and staff, and I'm happy to say I spent all day out there. I started this morning at Tular, and Ryan gave Seabury and myself a great tour, and we're able to talk to a lot of staff and a lot of students. And then I was joined by Bill, Mark, and Lee from ACT, and we went to the middle school, to River, and to the high school, and really just spent all day talking with our students, talking with our staff. And it's just a good reminder of what a remarkable community we have, and a good reminder of why we do what we do. So, great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll start with the Board of Education roundup with Seabury.
Yeah, my heart was breaking yesterday. I'm sure as parents, didn't mean to go there, sorry. My son participated in prom on Saturday. I agree, it was super sweet. Fantastic to see my son in a tuxedo. Really sweet. And so I really appreciate all the work that was put into doing that. I also was able to send off my daughter. This time I did not chaperone, but I helped contribute to snacks for the 8th grade dance, which again, they put on a fabulous show. It was at the Habitat, and they decorated, and it was very, very sweet. Like Dr. Knight said, I participated in a site visit at Chillercitos today, and just warmed my heart to be able to bend down and interact with young children and color with them and ask them questions. And it just, this is where you get your energy. And so thank you for hosting us for an hour or so, walking around all those classes. It was very sweet. We have very incredible schools and incredible administrators. And lastly, I just want to give a huge shout out to Ms. Thompson, Mr. Martin, Ryan Martin, and Mr. Glazier, who organized a Yosemite trip this last weekend that my daughter Rain participated in. And what a phenomenal opportunity for these, I think there's about 17 students. They were unplugged from Saturday through Monday, hiking, experiencing nature, camping, and then also volunteering to work with a nonprofit up in Yosemite that is pulling invasive species and planting milkweed for all the monarch butterflies. And what a great opportunity for these students. So a big, big shout out to those guys for making that happen. And then lastly, I just want to, I know that this is like one of our last school board meetings before school gets out. And I know that these have been a really rough couple of years for our teachers, our staff, our administrators, the people that make these schools run, our tech support, the people that take care of the landscaping, all the parent groups that pull off these incredible events all the time, to the parents that show up at the board meetings and respectfully provide your opinions and your suggestions and your comments. I so appreciate that. So I just want to say a very heartfelt thank you for making it through these 2 years. I know it was a rough road. It was a rough road for all of us as parents, as community members, as board members. It was a rough road, but we got through. And what I tell my kids all the time is, kindness. Just continue to be kind to one another. And I think we're doing that. So thanks.
Thanks, Seabury. Carl?
Kind of hard to follow Seabury. But I too, honestly, am wondering, when will it stop? I don't know. It just, none of this makes any sense anymore. It never did, and somebody needs to do something. But I'm going to move forward from that. So anyway, I hear from a lot of former students, mostly where they're going to school, what college they're going to, what year they're at. But I ran across one in Costco yesterday that flagged me down. He said, "Hey, Mr. Powell." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I bought a car." And I said, "Great. A new one?" He goes, "Yes." He said, "You remember when you went in and did the lesson on how to buy a new car in Anne Marie Rosen's consumer math class in the high school?" And I said, "Of course I remember that." And he goes, Mr. Powell, I did it all. I did not get the undercoat. I did not get the extended warranty. Did my homework. Didn't need the all-weather wax add-on that they were looking to do. I didn't need their credit. Mine was better. And after hearing about my trade-in, I decided to keep it and do it myself. And I said, well done. He did a good job, Anne-Marie. I want you to know that. Too bad we don't do a little more of that in terms of just consumer math and common sense and how to do things. But anyway, so that was kind of cool. Been following high school baseball, and of course Carmel's in the another step in along the way to a championship. Ted, am I right that did I see a recess in the meeting to see that game and then return? Is that in there somewhere?
There are a couple events at the high school tonight that are making me wonder why we're sitting here.
Yeah, the film festival being the other one. Okay. All right. So anyway, been doing that. I had an opportunity to go on a field trip with Mr. Schreier's Hugs AP freshman human geography class to Driscoll Farms in Watsonville. And I don't know, maybe Bill can correct me, 75 kids, all freshmen. And if anybody's ever been out there, what a show. What they're doing technologically, what they're doing with genetics, all the varietals of strawberries that they are making is just phenomenal. And so, and we got to spend time in the cooler, 32 degrees, for a good 7 or 8 minutes. Good time to bring a jacket, Carl. Didn't happen. So, but anyway, I want to thank Bill, because that is one heck of a trip. So I wanted to get that one in there too. You know, I also wanted to mention something on scholarships, because that came up. I've been working a little bit with Dr. Stoney, who has been kind of the founding father of moving our Carmel High School Scholarship Foundation forward. And I think he's a member of that class of 1952 at Carmel High. And yeah, and so he is very interested in changing their charter to include more scholarship for career technical education types. Not so much the high academics, because they're always going to be there. College is very expensive, but he wanted to include a charter change that would recognize students that aren't necessarily college bound now, or maybe not at all. Career-oriented scholarships, and so we're looking at that mission statement, and it's about time. I'll be honest with you folks, I think we haven't done as much in that domain as a high school. We're a comprehensive high school, but it's highly academic, and we're moving that way. But my goal has always been to try to see a lot more equity, if we can do that. So anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you, Carl. Anne-Marie?
Hi. I will get to at the end. I wanted to backtrack a little bit to Cinco de Mayo, which was actually Seis de Mayo down at Captain Cooper. In the plethora of things that I had mentioned the last time, I forgot to mention them. Thank you so much to Julian, Carolyn, Lisa. It was amazing. Such creativity to get all of these kids to have all of these dance steps, and they had all of the placards that they would change as they were going to show the kids what steps to do next. It was amazing. I love the cultural event that it was. It was bilingual, back and forth, and it just shows what diversity that we have going on, and just how special we are to try and work together to try and make it inclusive for everyone that was there. So that was just wonderful. Friends of Kashawa Center, I went to, I tried to get to their meeting, but they're planning a summer camp. Kashawa Fire, I went up and spoke with them for a little while. I went to a river school in Tular open house. It is amazing. I walk in the classrooms, I'm like, is this a first grade classroom? Because I don't think I learned this until high school. So I apologized, for my naivete, but it was amazing to see what all the teachers are doing, what the kids are producing is quality work that is just, it shows how much they love being there, and that how much the teachers love teaching them. And it was so refreshing for both of those elementary sites to see that. I wanted to thank all the teachers for all their hard work. It was just very, very special. Career Tech Ed had a recognition dinner for all of their, for our encompassing area, which is most of Monterey County. So from King City all the way up through Castroville. We had recognition at Bayonet Black Horse. Several of our students were recognized and received honors for that, for all their work, and it encompasses so many different aspects of life around here. And what I would like so much about Career Tech Ed is it gives kids something to hang on to when they take the next step after high school. And so they have something secure to land on where they can take care of themselves or help themselves out, and they can move forward, and giving them some ideas of what they're looking at. And Hannah, I especially wanted to say how much fun I had getting in trouble with you your first meeting. And it was so much fun. I just want to say that. Excuse me, Poncho, but I just wanted to say I had so much fun getting in trouble with you. Thank you. It brought me back, good memories to get in trouble with high schoolers again. The other thing I wanted to address was I had planned on doing this for a while, and then the events of yesterday really had spurred this to me. I'm very concerned about children's mental health, where we were going with that. I know that in my classroom, as Carl kind of alluded to, I had a lot of kids that were struggling, and we had a lot of times where it would be hand in whatever you can hand in to get your homework done. And I know that your situation at home or whatever it is untenable, and I will take whatever you give me and call that good. I had a lot of kids that had called my room a safe space, even though they had just 2 months before threatened to kill me. He came back, a child was bipolar, got on his meds, and said, your classroom is the only classroom on campus that I feel truly safe, and I will make that my safe space. And I said, that works for you, that works for you. So I want to pass out a couple of numbers. If you are ever concerned, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, call 911. If you're having an issue that you can't handle, these people will handle huge crises down to, what do I do in this situation? So you can talk to them, they can refer you. I wanted to pass along, they have a mobile crisis number. Monterey County Behavioral Health has a mobile crisis number. They will come out and assess your situation, and their number is 831-646-3914. The Behavioral Health Clinic out and for the Monterey Peninsula is out in Marina. They're 855-831-647-7652. And the one for Soledad, which some of our district, it's actually closer for them to get to Soledad than it is to get out to Marina. It's 831-769-8740. These people are trained to deal with mental health issues. They can assess based on what you call them up for. So if you're seeing something that is completely different with your child, they're acting completely different than they had before. You have suspicions about something, don't let it wait. Please, please don't let it wait. Take care of it, address it to somebody, put up some flags, say, I've got something here I need to talk to somebody about. These people can help you out. They can point you in the right direction, and they can help you. Okay? Thank you. That was all I had to say.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Tess, before we start with you, Tricia, would you be able to put those phone numbers that Anne Marie just mentioned on the district website? Thank you.
We also, Ted, added Care Solace as a district. That is a website we use that's 24-hour. So thank you for getting that information out yesterday too, Ted. I really appreciated all of your comments. I had a rough morning this morning with my students and really lost it in morning circle. So I apologize, but really top of mind. Last night I attended Tular Spring Sing. And it was great to see so many of the older siblings that were there. Brought me back because when I taught 4th grade at Tularcitos, all these kids are graduating this year. And there were a couple graduates there last night that were watching their younger brothers and sisters. Brought back a lot of memories. And in true Jean Short fashion, one of the songs was the Respect song, and I may have sang along. But it was great to see these kids. I felt old because I probably could be all of these mothers' mother at this point, so that was interesting. had some great conversations. And then from there were a lot of teachers there too, which was great to catch up with them. And Ryan, always a pleasure catching up with you. And then I ran over to the high school. I wanted to witness what I could of the high school awards night, and several of our students got quite a haul last night, including Hannah. It was so great to see you. And again, I cannot believe the generosity of our community and all these nonprofits out there that truly care about our students in our district. And I just want to thank them. It's always very, very special, including you, Carl. So thank you. And that is it for me.
Thank you all for your updates this evening. I think a lot of us had similar lists. There's been so many exciting events happening the last couple weeks that I know we've all been attending. And as I think Lisa Brazil said it the best, just to see all the joy and camaraderie between the students and the families and our principals and our aides in the classroom, just to see everybody together these last couple weeks for all these events that have been happening on all the different campuses has just really been exhilarating. And it feels like things have a sense of normalcy, which is really nice, with all things considered. So I also was in attendance at the River School and Tularcitos open house, and it was magical, and I appreciate all the hard work that all of our teachers and our students put into making that night so special for everybody. So there's too many names to list off, but just thank you to everybody involved with those events, and thank you, Ryan and Jay Martin, for always crushing those events and making them so special for the communities at your sites. And I'm looking forward to being here tomorrow night for the middle school open house. So I'm very excited to see all the classrooms and all the families come together here. I also just wanted to give a shout out also, it's funny, Lisa and I are on the same page tonight, to the parent clubs at all of our sites. I know for one, I was involved in the River School PTA for quite some years, and I know that all of our parent groups at all the sites put in so much hard work throughout the year, and everything is sort of culminating right now, and everybody's getting ready for the big summer send-off. So thank you to all of the parents that keep all of our students and teachers and staff feeling appreciated throughout the year. It is no small effort what these parent clubs do at each and every one of our sites. So thank you to everybody. And last but not least, I did want to publicly thank the Big Sur Marathon folks for proactively reaching out to Dr. Knight and myself to partner with them for the cross-country trail that Dr. Knight spoke about. We were really happy to be involved and be engaged in their effort, and we're really excited to see some of the first races that happen in the fall, and it's beautiful. I went and checked it out too, so it's gorgeous out there. So thank you to everybody from the Big Sur Marathon. And with that, we will move right into our public comment. Oh, and last but not least, but thank you, Hannah, for everything this past year. I know you've sat through all these meetings, and we have appreciated your comments and your readouts on the high school more than you know. It's really been a bright light in these meetings, and you will definitely be missed next year. Thanks. All right, so we'll go ahead and take public comment. Anybody that's here for a public comment, I hope you grabbed a ticket, because that is how I will call you up. Members of the public that would like to address the board this evening, you will have 3 minutes, and we will go ahead and start with number 80 this evening for public comment. Is there a number 80? Is there 81? 82? 83? Thank you.
All right. I apologize, my voice is kind of hoarse, so I hope you guys can hear me okay. I come to you guys today to talk about late start, and I have a request from all of you, and I'll start with that. I understand that this is very early in the conversation for late start, that there's still data coming out and you guys are trying to figure out what to do. My ask is that you guys adopt a prerequisite for late start, that the busing for all of the students in this district is not affected. I started off a couple of weeks ago talking to parents in my neighborhood. I live out in Kashawa, and they were really upset. They thought that busing in the area would be in jeopardy because of the way things are currently working. If high school starts later, the elementary school starts sooner, and the buses would either not arrive or that they would arrive so early that it would not be useful. For me and my kids, I'm okay. I can take care of that. But there's a lot of people in Kashawa and everywhere in our community that cannot shoulder that burden. I talked to dozens of families all across our district that if this were to happen, they count on their bigs to get their littles on the bus. Those families will not benefit if they have to get up anyways, right? The families who have the least amount of resources to sacrifice are more than likely the ones who would receive the biggest detriment from making this shift prematurely. I don't think that there's anyone who's going to argue that kids need more sleep. I know when my littles don't get enough sleep, it makes my job very hard. It doesn't take a scientist to figure that out. But we owe it to the people who sacrifice the most to be in our community, to take care of them, to take this, for some of us, what would be a very small sacrifice, for them is very big. And I asked these parents to come and speak for themselves. More than one mom told me that she was scared that if people knew her family situation, she would lose her kids. That's not acceptable. So I'm here to speak for them, and I will continue to be here. But I ask you all, please take that burden on. If we're going to do this, do it the right way with enough time and enough resources. And if we can't, we can't, because we cannot leave the most vulnerable of us behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Number 84, please.
I've been chosen, lucky number 84. Board President Hines, board members, and Dr. Knight, faculty, staff of Carmel Unified School District, and members of the public. My name is Jake Odello. I'm a candidate for the Monterey County Board of Education for the Trustee Area 1, which represents the communities of Monterey, Pacific Grove, Pebble Beach, Carmel by the Sea, Carmel Valley, Big Sur, and Kashawa. It's a large area, and I wanted to take the time and the opportunity to introduce myself, as this is a slightly newer stage for me. And I am a product of this school district. I attended Carmelo River School Middle and Carmel High School class of 2009. So I really have a boots on the ground perspective and a boots on the ground approach to understanding the student voice, understanding students that are in this area, and can connect with students, as I'm also a teacher at our local community college. And I've been doing that for a year now, and I have a contract to go back and continue teaching as well. So I have the ability to connect with not only our students and the students here, but the students of all of Monterey County, which the county board serves. I'm also do a lot of volunteer work that keeps me connected with parents, teachers, and staff. And so those are very important to me, and I want to continue those connections so I can make those and represent those concerns and represent the community effectively at the county board level. I also have long roots in this community. My grandfather attended the Bay School back in the 1920s, finished at Monterey High School because Carmel High School didn't exist then, not quite yet. So I've been around a long, long time. I understand this community, and this community has done so much for me, and I've been so fortunate to come back and live here and be among the community here, and I want to give back and positively shape the education of our students for not only Trustee Area 1, but all of Monterey County. Some of my passion points are career tech, emergency preparedness in terms of natural disaster, fire protection, pandemic, and also the mental health crisis. that I think is pressing on our communities right now. So those are some of my passion points. But above all, please participate in this election. Please evaluate and vote. And I understand it's an off election, but please participate. And I hope you can consider me, but do participate. And more than anything, vote. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much.
Sarah, I can't let that one go without saying former student of mine, great leader, and really made a big impact when he was at Carmel High School. Not to mention the family's history. It goes way, way back. But Jake is the real deal.
Thank you, Carl. And thank you, Jake, for being here with us this evening. We appreciate it. Number 85, please.
Hello, everyone. I am really pleased to be here. My name is Dr. Linnea Terranova, and I'm a psychologist, and I am here actually representing our high school. I am the chair for the Sober Grad Night, and it has been quite an experience, I have to tell you. First time that I've been at the helm of this, had an incredible group around me and working together to make this happen. And actually, Sober Grad started the year that I graduated from Carmel High, which was in 1992. So it's really been kind of cool to see this come full circle. I'm here just to offer a huge thank you to the board for recognizing the importance of what Sober Grad Night is doing. In the past, the board has actually helped provide some funds for this very important organization, but this year we had a particular need. In fact, in February, my heart was sinking. We were not where we needed to be in terms of raising money. To tell you a little bit about Sober Grad Night, we cover the costs of about 200 students. And in other schools, they do have a Sober Grad Night, but the students actually pay for that themselves. And we, as our school, we try to make sure that all kids can attend this. We do have other events that the school provides, but they have to actually pay for those things. So Sober Grad Night is the one thing we offer that all students can attend regardless of their financial situation. And given the fact that we have the pandemic and all the other things that have been going on, and especially with mental health issues, I really felt it was important that we were able to fully fund this year for all of our students. So I want to thank the board, all of you, for agreeing to help fund the event. In fact, you were able to cover our boardwalk expenses and some of the bus expenses, which was a huge relief from all of us as parents trying to raise, just a couple of moms trying to sit here and get all of this money together, which was close to $60,000 to pull this thing off. So thank you very, very much for stepping up and making this happen, for this to be something that the board will cover and be a part of, not fully cover, but cover in many ways in years going forth. It really means a lot. It really speaks loudly to the community that you care about our students staying safe, and really putting this on the agenda as something that all students can have access to and not have to worry about trying to fund and stay safe on the night of graduation. Thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of the board, we are so pleased that we could contribute and participate in a way that is meaningful, and I can attest that we all want to make sure that our students stay safe on graduation night and have the opportunity to participate in this wonderful event. So thank you and your team for everything that you're doing for the event. Right. Number 86. 87. I think we have. Is there anybody else here for public comment? We'll just. All right. I think we are going to conclude the public comment session of this meeting. All right. We'll move along to agenda item 2, and this is our consent calendar. This is where the board bundles items and acts upon them together in one motion through the use of our consent calendar. These consent agenda items are routine items deemed to be non-controversial, which the board discussion is not anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the vote unless any members of the board request specific items to be removed for discussion. So with that said, may I please get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nockbar.
Yes.
All right, agenda item number 3. These are our action, discussion, and information items. So this evening we have 3. Agenda item 3A is the Universal Pre-K Planning and Implementation Grant Approval. And just for the board's edification, this will be a roll call vote at the end of the presentation. Yes.
Good, I'm fine with that. Hi, no problem. Okay, well, that's really loud. I'm Laura Dunn. I'm the Director of Child Development Programs for the district, and I'm excited to be here. A couple years, TK has been brewing for quite some years, those professionals in my field, in the county, have been very nervous about this coming down from the state. Is it going to be just kindergarten, push it down? Are we doing something right for our 4-year-olds? It's been very stressful for us for many years, but I really felt this past year the support of Dr. Knight and the board members and all of the administrators in the council. So much support for this, and then my involvement in the community as well in our county. It's going to be a wonderful thing for 4-year-olds, and I'm really excited to be able to present this to you guys because I wasn't so sure about this a couple years ago. This is really loud. Is it really loud on you guys too? Just me? Okay. All right. So I'm going to kind of start with some definitions because there's a lot of UPK, UTK, there's like a whole bunch of those. So on the last page of the actual plan that was attached to this are some definitions. So just for the audience and for everybody, because I'm going to kind of refer to all of these, I wanted to kind of clarify them. So UPK stands for Universal Pre-Kindergarten. So UTK is Universal Transitional Kindergarten, and TK is Transitional Kindergarten. So I'm going to be referring to all of these, and I know it'll sound like I'm saying the same thing over and over, but they're slightly different things. So I'll try to make it clear, and please ask questions if I don't make it clear. So the Universal Pre-Kindergarten includes just what it says on this slide. It means Universal Transitional Kindergarten is part of Universal Pre-Kindergarten. Okay, it's just one piece of it. And then you've got the expanding of private and public services for 3-year-olds, which is part of our plan. And then also this can include 4-year-olds who don't meet that TK cutoff, right? So they have their birth date after September 1st. It also is the expansion of the California State Preschool Program, which our district is the only one in. We have a contract with the state of California to provide quality preschool for families who qualify based on whether they are low income, homelessness, foster care. Some children with disabilities also will qualify. It's not automatic. I need glasses or something. I can't see this far. Anyway, that's basically those 3 different things. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about the transitional kindergarten and expanding that on the next slide. But does anybody have questions about those previous definitions that you want me to explain more about? No, it's clear. Okay, so we can go to the next one then. So basically, the state is requiring that we expand the age eligibility for transitional kindergarten. For the past few years, it's been you had to have your 5th birthday between September 2nd and December 2nd. And that followed after they wanted to change the date of entry into kindergarten, where it used to be you had to be 5 by December 2nd, and they wanted to change that to September 2nd. So over the course of 4 years, they moved that date. And while they were doing that, they expanded this transitional kindergarten 1 year at a time to include more and more children as that birth date moved. So now they're going to do that more into each year it's going to include 2 more months worth of birthdays until it finally includes a full year, the full year before they turn 5 to go to kindergarten. They have also included ratio and class size standards as well. So those are 1 to 10 by next year after next. Questions about that slide? Okay. Okay, so this, I really wish I had printed these out in front of me because that's really far away for me. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay, so as you can see, the first year, we'll probably, we're going to be adding 3 portable classrooms on site at the Carmelo Child Development Center. And the reason we're going to do that is we want to, as you remember on that first slide, part of this universal pre-kindergarten is expanding services for 3-year-olds. And I'll tell you, our waiting list at Carmelo is unbelievably long, longer than I've ever known it, and I've worked there for 25 years. It's just unbelievable how many people in our district have 3-year-olds who are waiting to be served. And so we are going to expand our services while we, at the same time, expand the TK age to serve more 4-year-olds. So right now we do serve some 4-year-olds, but it's capped at our capacity, right? So there's more that are waiting to get in that we are not serving now. So this will allow us to serve all 4-year-olds and then space available more 3-year-olds. So the 4-year-olds will absolutely get priority because they're automatically go to TK, right? So we will expand those services first. And then based on the space still available, we will be able to serve more 3-year-olds. And so that is going to, over time, we will probably need to hire another teacher. We will need to expand the hours of the current aide that's in there because we have a very small class this year. We anticipate right now we have 29 children already signed up for next year, and there's always going to be a few more that come in over the summer. So we will have to expand that just at first, but then as the years go on, and more children are eligible, we will have to hire another teacher and possibly another preschool teacher and whatnot so that we can keep the ratios what they are. What we've projected here is really sort of our top cost analysis. This is like worst case scenario basically, as if like all the kids who were born in that year all of a sudden show up at our door. This is what we would have to deal with. But typically not all children choose to go to TK or kindergarten, and many of the private schools in our area will also be offering this transitional kindergarten as well. I know that RLS has offered it for years. All Saints has offered it for years. So every child isn't going to come, but we need to be able to serve them if they do come.
If I can, Laura, too, and as a reminder to the board, as we talked about before, right now for basic aid districts, this is entirely unfunded, which we are.
Is there any recapture there in terms of tuitions or anything like that?
I don't believe so, is there?
Sort of, not really. We will be offering before and after school care at Carmelo as part of our plan. You probably, when you read that whole plan, that will be tuition based unless they qualify for that CSPP program. So if they are a low income or foster youth or homelessness, they will qualify for a full day of care in addition to their TK hours. And so that'll be the same process that they go through now if they're going to preschool for a full day. So I'll handle all of that just the same. And then, so there will be some revenue from the before and after school care for the TK children who don't qualify for the CSPP, who work and want that full day of care. So it'll still be offered from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wraparound care. As they need it. You know, they don't have to do the whole thing. They can do just before school. They can do just till 3 o'clock, or they can do till 6 o'clock, or a combination of all those things. And then, so there will be some revenue from that. if there's a lot of children who need that care, I may end up having to hire more rec assistants to care for those children, but it usually actually it offsets itself with the tuition. The expansion of the 3-year-olds will definitely be the same as Carmelo is now. So the more 3-year-olds, the more tuition we're gonna bring in. So that's kind of a wash on that one. So it's really the initial of those 3 portables. It's going to be a big chunk of change, but then hiring more teachers for the TK class will cost money.
Do you want us to ask questions as we go, or do you want us to wait till the
I'm ready
end?
for questions now.
So my main question is, how are you determining that a 0.5 is enough for adding the extended care services for the 3-year-olds? I mean, that's my biggest question. The extended services for the 3-year-olds, you said you're hiring a 0.5 FTE, or is that for the TK?
That's for the TK.
Okay, so, but you're also hiring someone else to do extended services? Or is that becoming, who's handling the extended services, I guess is my question.
Yeah, I am. But it will be at Carmelo, and it'll be just as needed. You know what I mean? Like I said, like this is the worst case scenario kind of thing. Like if I only have 10 kids who need after school care, that's what we have right now. And we already have that in-house, and I already have a rec assistant hired that gives them that care. And they pay tuition for that. Up till now, they didn't have the option of having the California State Preschool Program pay for after school care at all for TK or school age for us. As a side note, I'm involved with the county as far as deciding that we need to be a priority 1 for these kinds of funds from the state when new funds become available. We were a priority 3 just based on that, you're Carmel, you guys don't need help. And I convinced them that we do have communities that need a lot of help and that we don't have that right now. And so I did manage to present that we needed to be changed to priority 1, and that did go through the local planning council for child care planning council. So that's just a side note. But anyway, so if new money does become available, I would expand our CSPP contract as needed. Right now, I think we're good, but I can do that as the years go along if there's a lot of people who do qualify for that before and after school care.
So, Ted, I'm thinking, supplemental aid districts, school districts that are ADA based, do they get supplemental support for this?
Yeah, because they'd be included in that ADA calculation.
Okay.
But since we are not, we're basically adding an entire new grade level with literally no more money.
Correct. Okay.
We don't really have a choice in the matter,
Not
though.
that I'm not for it, you guys, but I'm just curious,
Yes.
I guess my question comes to, I have 2 of them actually. One of them looking at the ratios, 1 to 12 and 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Having worked in a preschool and kindergarten, that terrifies me because that's an awful lot of, it's a lot of management, especially with kids that are going to be that young who are not, necessarily up there with being prepared for all the potty training and all the, everything else that goes with sitting still for that long. That's sort of a big age to make that transition. The jury's still out with me on whether universal TK is going to be such a great idea for 3-year-olds.
It's not for 3-year-olds, for 4-year-olds.
For 4-year-olds, excuse me, for 4-year-olds. That just concerns me. So I was just looking at, is this like industry standard we're looking at for the numbers 1 to 12 and 1 to 10?
It's the state law.
It's the state law.
Yeah.
But
we don't have to go to that. We can go less than that.
We
Sure.
can better that.
And right now, our 4-year-olds are getting a 1 to 8 ratio.
Okay.
That's our standard right now.
Okay, which is better. The other question was, is this also, we're going to be looking at pushing more additional funding towards Apple Pie and towards Kashawa Center as they expand? And are you looking at those numbers? Because I just heard about Carmelo.
Right. No, they're a part of the program, absolutely. Right. So the Kashawa Preschool and the Apple Pie Preschool, they are options for families who have 4-year-olds. So that's part of that universal pre-kindergarten, right? So they have an option. This coming year, 2 of the children graduating from Kashawa Preschool who are TK age have already registered. But there's one who says, no, I don't want that for my child yet. I want them to stay in the preschool setting, much more play-based. It's right next to my home. It's where I feel comfortable, and she has that choice, and she's still funded. So it's all about parent choice, for sure, Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think, going to what Anne Marie was saying, I think it would be interesting to, if you could summarize some of the benefits of this.
Yeah. So as you guys are voicing your concerns, this is what I've been dealing with for the last 5 or 6 years as this has been rolling out, right? I'm like, no, you can't do this to our 4-year-olds. But in all of the state level, county level meetings that I have been in forever, and I dream transitional kindergarten, that it's actually what I realized is this what the state wants, because I've been to a lot of these CDE state meetings about TK. They want all the districts to do what we have already been doing for 20 years. That's what they're doing. They are forcing other districts to have amazing, high-quality preschool for kids. And it's what we've been doing, you know. So it relaxed me a lot to go, oh, you don't want us to change what we're doing. We're going to continue what we're doing, and that's why I really want it to stay at Carmelo, where we have the facilities that are appropriate. We have the playgrounds that are appropriate. It's in the governor's budget to propose that fully qualified preschool teachers who have a bachelor's degree and are enrolled in a credentialing program can be fully qualified TK teachers the day they enroll. Like, okay, good, because that's what they want. They want fully qualified preschool teachers to be doing this. They don't want second grade teachers to be pushing down into preschool. They want preschool teachers who know what they're doing, who's still appropriate and play-based and all the stuff that Carmelo and Apple Pie and Kashawa have been doing for 20 some odd years. Yeah.
One other question, are we looking at busing?
No.
Okay, so that's all going to be parents are going to have to transport to the
Yes.
site?
So like right now, there's no busing to Carmelo. You know what I mean? The very early years of TK at Carmelo, we did bus, and it was a really bad idea. They were young 4-year-olds, and they were riding the bus, and it wasn't a good thing. So we changed that, and that's why we started offering before and after school care at Carmelo, because they were being bused out to T-Rex. You know, they were being bused up to Kashawa, and it's a long bus ride for these little 4-year-olds. So we have definitely gone with that model of, no, we will meet their needs for a full day if they need to right there at Carmelo.
Yeah, my question would be, you know, having been in principals, you know, for a long time in the district, you know, you've got 8th graders that are not ready for high school, and you've got kindergartners that aren't ready for the 1st grade, 5th graders that some not ready for middle school. This is more of a crapshoot, if you will, with 4-year-olds, because you got some that probably could go right to the 1st grade. You've got others that I don't know how much help they're going to need or whether they're ready. So in terms of advising parents, do you do any of that, or how does that work in terms of eligibility or just, you know, readiness?
So it's kind of like saying, are my 4-year-olds that are at Carmelo or Apple Pie right now, are they ready to be in preschool? They are. They're there. It's the same. It's going to be the same.
Okay.
It's literally going to be the same. We're just calling it something different. And I'm going to make sure, and I have the support of Dr. Knight and the rest of the admin, that's what we want to do. We want to keep this really appropriate for these children. It's play-based. It's not another year of kindergarten. There's a whole other thing that I referred to there that's called P3, and that means aligning preschool, TK, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, so that that curriculum is in line, so that you're not expecting a TK child to do kindergarten curriculum. You're not expecting kindergarten to do 1st grade, vice versa, so that it's in line, so that we teach them an appropriate sequence of curriculum for them.
Is it parent choice at that age?
It is. It's completely parents' choice at that
It's kind of
age.
hard to manage staffing that way, in a sense, because it's compulsory for everybody else. You know.
Well, kindergarten still isn't. They
Yeah.
don't have to go to kindergarten.
So
So like
you're
at
right. You're
Apple
right.
Pie,
Yeah.
there are children who are deciding to stay at Apple Pie or go down to the TK Kinder combo class, and they have that choice. They just
Okay.
need to tell us now.
Yeah, we
you
have
know?
enough broad coverage to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a moment of levity, just to
Yeah.
calm it down and to address Carl with all the people. I went from preschool, kindergarten to teaching high school, and people were saying that's a huge difference. And I said, no, there's really not much difference, except for the preschoolers are better potty trained than the high schoolers. They always had to go in the middle of class.
And I have to add a comment too. I used to tell parents at the high school, watch your seniors. as close as you watch your first graders. Don't
Yes.
quit.
So I have one more question, Laura.
Yeah.
This might be a silly question,
No.
but why is this considered a grant approval?
Because if we weren't a basic aid district, they give you money for this, right? But they're requiring us to do this. It's not like it's an option. So it is a little crazy that they're calling it a grant, right? But they're just saying we have to apply for this, but they're not saying we can't. We can't opt out of applying for it, but we have to apply for it. And so the requirement is for me to put this plan together on how I am going to meet these needs, and present it to the board so that you know what our plan is, and the state will know that I've presented this to you.
And speaking of grants, are there any opportunities for money out there in a grant, through the grant process?
Only if I were to expand the CSPP grant with the state, if I had more low-income families or whatnot who came out of the woodwork who wanted that extended day for TK, then I'm serving now. But I'm serving as many as I have applied, for the last few years. I haven't turned somebody away. If they qualify, they qualify.
I would just add, part of doing this too is the fight for funding isn't over. We're continuing to lobby and other people are continuing. So if something were to happen in the legislature and basic aid districts would somehow get funded, we're already ready to go. We've got everything ready. And as Laura said, this is really a continuation of the great work they've already been doing. It's just expanding it a little bit, making it available for other kids. But we're hopeful that at some point there will be more funding for this. And so I think having this plan ready to go is a big part of that.
There are a lot of grants out there for preschool teachers to become certificated teachers to teach TK. So there are a lot of grants available for that right now. And I know that at least 2 or 3 of my teachers are taking advantage of that right now. It is my hope, and I don't see why not, but like right now I have a transitional kindergarten fully credentialed teacher, and then the aide in the classroom is a fully qualified preschool teacher. And I want to keep that model so that we have that balance of somebody who has lots of experience and that preschool teaching permit to balance that and plan together and keep that good thing going. Any other questions?
I don't think
Okay.
so.
Thank you for your laptop.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. No need to sit up there and struggle. Okay. Ted,
do you want me to
Tricia,
make
how
a
would you like
motion?
to proceed? Okay. Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Planning and Implementation Grant Plan as presented.
I'll second.
Board President Sarah Hines.
Yes.
Board Clerk Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Anne-Marie Rosen.
Yes.
Board Member Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Seabury Nachbar.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks. All right, agenda item 2B, this is the California Voting Rights Act, CVRA Demographer Services. Thank you, Yvonne. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So tonight we are asking the board to give us direction on entering into a contract with a demographer. We sent an RFP to 4 firms, and of those 4 firms, 2 responded. And so we went through and evaluated their responses, and they were both qualified firms. But tonight we're recommending that that we look at Lapkoff and Goblet, primarily because they performed a significant amount of work in Monterey County. So they know Monterey County, and because they've done so much work in Monterey County, they have a good relationship with the election, where the maps would have to finally be filed for the election. So we think we believe that they rose to the top for those reasons. So in checking references, we also know that that they know the process. They're well versed in they're well versed in the process, and they've done this kind of work for a long time. So once again tonight we're asking the board to give us direction to go ahead and enter into a contract with Lapkoff and Goblet. If you give that direction, I will work with them on signing a contract, and we would have that ratified at the next board meeting.
Well, I was going to say you did the homework, so it's good with me. Ted, did you want to throw in there?
Well, just a reminder for the board and for the public, this is to secure a demographer due to our demand letter to district. As people know, our board members are elected at large, and this would be to move towards a more regional by district for the 2024 and then ongoing elections. So there's a very precise laid out legal process that you have to go through that includes various board meetings and such. So the first step this board has already taken prior to the pandemic, in choosing to move forward this project, like many others, got delayed due to the pandemic. But now that we're ready to pick it up again, we need to secure a demographer who will start that work. And this will be something that will come up kind of like some of our other projects. This will be every board meeting almost. We're going to have something to do up through December-ish time frame. And yeah, I want to thank Yvonne for her work on this and going out and finding us the group that she thinks is the best fit for our county and for this district.
Yvonne, I'm just curious, do you know the process of how they collect this information? I mean, like how
Mhm.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
And the timing on that.
Right.
timeline.
So it will take through December to do this. Sometimes it will take a little bit longer, but they're so familiar with our county that we think we can speed that up a little bit. But there will be at least 5 meetings is what's required, 5 public meetings at the minimum. The board could choose to have more, but they look at the census, and so it's based on the 2020. It got delayed too. Was it the 2021 census, 2020 census? I can't remember now. But they use that information from the census, and that's what drives the information. And then they map it out for the whole district, which we're a large district geographically. And then they know the rules and regulations, because there are many of those that they have to comply with to get to bring options to the board where it meets the requirements of the CVRA.
So I'd like to request, once we have the demographer, Ted and Yvonne, are you able to go through for the public what the plan is and what the next steps are? I know we all keep saying there's 5 more meetings and this happens and that happens, but I know from my understanding, it's a very finite process of the way we have to move forward through this process. So I think it'd be helpful for not only the board but also the public just to understand the steps that we're going to go through once the demographer is chosen. Sort of the ball gets rolling, and I think outlining that plan would be great in the next meeting or 2.
Right.
Yeah, I think we can bring them forward. In general, there's 2 meetings to gather feedback on the maps. There's 3 meetings to finalize the map. I believe there's a meeting the county has to approve it, but yeah, we'll have them. And we've got a rough draft timeline of what that looks like, but we can have the demographers run that by them and kind of put that in their process and get a report out.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I think a timeline would be helpful.
Yes, we can. There was a timeline attached, but we can define that even more.
Okay.
And I know that the demographers are willing to come in person, or they can do a virtual presentation. If they come in person, it's going to cost us a little more money, but they are willing to do that. They're a team of 2. Generally, there's this one of them that does the presentations. So it would be the board, I guess that's a question to ask. Would the board prefer to have the demographers here in person, or would a virtual meeting be okay for some of these?
Well, that's going to be your call, I think.
Okay.
I do think we ought to make sure that it gets into the local papers as well, because this is a quantitative change from the way this district's been doing business for a long time.
Right.
So I don't know. It's still exploratory, I imagine, in terms of the process. As we move forward, we'll have to take steps.
Sure.
But I'd like to see something done in print, maybe not just on our website, just to let the community know that we're looking at this and why.
Yes.
Carl, that's a requirement of the process.
It is.
It
Well,
is,
thank
yeah.
you. Good to know.
Right. We will have we'll create a web page. When I did this in my old district, we were putting information on our web page, maps, the options, things like that. So the public was well informed, and we'll do that same process here. Jessica's been through some of this as well.
Well, I'm hoping Jessica's comment will include those that would never go to our webpage because they don't have a reason
Sure,
to.
sure.
You know,
Yeah,
and that's a lot of people that vote.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
So that's why
Right.
I'm hoping to get away from just school-based news.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
And I'm
Any-
hoping that would be included in the presentation as well. I just feel like we need a comprehensive presentation pulled together of,
Okay.
you know, what the timeline is. As Jessica just stated, there's certain things that are required.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we just need to see it all in one place
Mm-hmm.
would be helpful.
Sure, we
And
can do
Yvonne,
that.
remind me, there's some public meetings as well where they're really trying to recruit, and those will be more place-based. So like if we're trying to get information from the Kashawa area or the Big Sur, those will be there potentially?
It's on the transition schedule. It talks about
Okay.
all the different hearings.
Okay.
Mhm.
There are several different hearings that the public can
Yeah,
attend.
generally you tie those public hearings to a board meeting,
Okay.
but it could be separate. And if the desire was to reach out to those communities, we could plan some meetings like that too. So it would be something that we'll need to
Okay.
just plan out.
And well, the reason I'm asking is I wanted to know if it would be important to have someone that was bilingual at, as part of the
Yeah.
demographers.
It very well could be.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the results of the demographers, that might be a requirement. But also I wanted to let you know that I'm going to link the timeline in the board brief so that that goes to everyone. I'm also going to link the Monterey County Office of Education's redistricting site. That just happens to be a site that I created. But that has a lot of information about the process, why it happens, how the data is collected. I'm going to link that in the board briefs as well.
So that would be a reference, right, on our website to them. Okay, makes sense. Do you need a motion?
No, just a consensus. Yeah.
Consensus?
Yeah,
Oh,
do I
okay.
have 5 thumbs up or at least 3?
You got it.
All right.
All right. Very
You
good.
got 'em.
Thank,
Thank
you,
you.
Yvonne. Thank you so much. All right, agenda item 3C. This is special day classes, learning center presentation with Steve.
Need my glasses on. Thank you for inviting me here this evening. This is a very exciting time for us in the district. I think when I came in the district, when I started about 4 years ago, I think the second year I was interviewed by a high school student for the newspaper, and they were asking me, why do we have students outside of our district getting services and supports? And so this has been a goal, not only of mine, but I think for many in the district. And so I'm happy to share with you the plans. In our department, we have about 54 staff members, and so I know that I also want to acknowledge them. And they have, they're very dedicated. They have big hearts, and they work hard every day. And through this process, when we were establishing the plans and moving forward, I also want to acknowledge Cassie Mills in our audience, a parent who partnered with us through the process as well. So this was not only, educators, but this was the community coming together. And so I just want to acknowledge everyone. We can go ahead. So what I want you to walk away with today from the presentation is really understanding the trends and some of the challenges. But when we think of the challenges, it also allows us to think of the opportunities that we're able to look at and also initiate our plans for. And so we can go ahead and slide. So with that, what we did when we looked at some of our challenges was we wanted to start with our question, and that was, can we bring back or can we expand our continuum of services that support our students with disabilities? We have about 16 students outside of our district. And to give you an example, in one of our neighboring districts, we, in one of the programs, three of the 4 students were ours. And so the question was, if we have students in another program, why can't we establish a program within our district? There are students. and we should be able to bring them back and to support them. So that was one of the significant goals that we were looking at. The thing that we also, one of the goals that we also addressed was, what are our values? And so as a group, you see the numbers 18, there are 18 stakeholders that came together, and this included administrators, this included our special education staff, this also included Dan Paul. He's busy, but he also was a part of the process too, because one of the things that was significant for us to address was facilities when we looked at our classes. And in this case, we were looking at one program at the elementary school. And when I say program, that would be a moderate, really a mild, moderate, learning center-based program. And then at the middle school, we were also looking at, for our kids, because our kids that are outside of our district, they really fit in terms of the services and needs that are required to support them, really aligned to more of a moderate special day class. And so the discussions did start at around September 30th, and then we had 7. The 7 means we met 7 times, and the meetings were really focused on, again, our values. We looked at our facilities, what was needed. We also looked at the materials, the curriculum. We looked at the data, the number of students that would be appropriate. Even though we were looking at one of the programs was a special day class at the middle school. When I say special day class, it really is specific to the needs of the students. So this could be a student with more therapeutic needs. It could be a student with more academic needs. So it really is focused on the students' needs. Okay.
But it's all resource-based, right, in terms of needs? In other words, they would have to qualify.
So every student that does receive supports, they would qualify for special education, so they would go through an assessment to be able to qualify.
So it's different than an opportunity ed program, which is just kids that need a different kind of adjustment, correct?
Right, there's eligibility.
Okay. So at middle school, you'd continue to have both. Would that be right?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. Yeah.
thanks.
And so this might also help too. So if there's a slide that you want to remember, I think this is the slide that you would want to remember from the presentation. On your left-hand side, you could see it has least on the bottom with the arrow, and then it goes up in intensity to the most. And then in the middle, you could see the continuum of really the services and the settings that by law, actually districts are required to have. And so you could see on the bottom, we have our general education classrooms. And that's typically, those are for all students and also the least support. And then the next setting would be possibly consultation from the resource specialist or consultation from our board certificated behavior analyst. And then as you move up the continuum, it gets a little bit more intensive in terms of the supports that we're providing. And then we have the regular classroom with what we call related services. So this could be speech therapy services. This could be, again, behavioral supports, physical therapy, occupational therapy. And then we also have a resource room. In our district, I want to acknowledge the high school and the middle school, and actually the district. There was really a key emphasis on inclusion. So they really have implemented co-teaching as a model. And so that's something that we want to honor. As you move up, again, separate classroom. Although it says separate classroom, the focus for our advisory committee was to really look at how can we establish an inclusive setting. So even though it says separate classroom, the space and the classroom really is going to be centered within the school itself. And it really provides a home base for the students. So a student might need more support in math, or they might need support in English, but they can be included in mainstream in other areas of the school setting. And then separate school, this is where we start to collaborate with for instance, Monterey County Office of Education or our neighboring districts who have more of the therapeutic programs, and then residential schools and home and hospital. On the right-hand side, you could see the arrow going down where it has least to most. And so typically what we find is that as you go up the continuum, you have least students needing the support. Of course, in the regular education classroom, we have the most students that we're supporting. And even though this is,
Oops,
sorry, go ahead.
I have
It's okay.
This is probably a really silly question,
It's okay.
but will the high school special day class students and the middle school special day class students, they'll be here at the middle school but in two separate rooms, or will there be one at the high school and one here?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So right now, in terms of the needs and the data that we have, we don't have students at the high school that are requiring this level of support.
Okay.
And so right now in the fall, we're going to be working with the high school and starting the process to plan, because as the students do matriculate up to the high school, we will need to have that program for them.
So you'll start here at the middle school?
Correct,
Okay,
right.
with just one class?
Right. Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
then will the elementary special day class students be here as well?
As they
Or-
matriculate, they're going to stay at the elementary school, but then once they move up and matriculate in the grade level, they'll be going, depending on the IEP team and
Okay.
and the discussions around the IEP team, it has to be decided by the IEP team.
Okay,
But
so
that would be
no
the intent.
special day classes at elementary?
There's a,
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry.
So Steve, if
Mhm.
probably best to hold our questions to the end.
Okay.
Steve's got a presentation here that I think will answer a lot of these.
Okay.
And then there's a question slide at the end if there's still confusion.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, thank you.
it's okay. So we can go ahead and move to the next slide, please. So I also wanted to provide you with the data and the trends over time, and this was, again, something that the advisory committee also looked at. You could see in 2015, there were 201 students with IEPs, and it was pretty stable up until 2018. And so the question might be, why the bump and the increase? And one of the reasons is we really focused on assessments. And so what we found was that we were getting more referrals. We were having to assess and respond to the referrals. And I also want to acknowledge Karen Neville and Kate Conheim, our school psychologists, because for every single student, they're involved in that assessment. And so they're extremely busy, and we've actually had to contract to help support our assessments and our requirements and mandates around that. The other big reason after, in 2001 or 2021 and up until the present is the pandemic. And the pandemic has really created a significant need in terms of us needing to support the assessments and to respond to the assessments due to concerns around learning loss. Okay. And again, this is also information that we reviewed. So for our district right now, around 2,228 or 83 students. Out of those students, we have 287 students currently that qualify for special education. So that's about 13% of our population. Yes, so RTI, response to intervention, is general education. Correct. And so there are a lot of acronyms in special education. So you could see SLD is specific learning disabilities. So 168 students qualify for special education as a student with specific learning disability. And OHI is other health impaired. And SLI is speech, language, and impairment. And so there are 13 categories for a student to qualify for special education. And so, for instance, a child might exhibit autistic characteristics. That could be a qualification. Another qualification might be emotional disturbance. And so there are, additional qualifications that we have to look at when we're, if there's a suspected disability. You can also see we're not far off in terms of our averages in terms of students with IEPs. In California in 2020, about 13% of the population students had an IEP or receiving special education services. So with the pandemic, I would anticipate, or I would expect that percentage in California has significantly increased as well, and nationally. Okay. So there are a lot of bullet points in this slide because this was really the outcome from the advisory committee and the recommendations. one of the questions you might have is the location of the program. The 7 is signifying the estimated number of students that would be appropriate to receive services in a program. So at the elementary school, it again is a mild moderate learning center. And so what that means is there would be really a lot of fluidity in that process for a student. So they're able to go to a home base, and then they're able to be mainstream or included in other areas in the school to have access to their education. And at the middle school, it's a special day class. And so again, all of these decisions do have to be made by the IEP team. And so there have been a lot of meetings in the past, this past spring. What I can share is that most of the discussions have been very favorable and positive. Okay. And so just in summary, the big takeaway is, are we able to expand our continuum of services and supports? The students are our students, and so I think it's an obligation for our district to really look at how we can do that. Again, every student's different and every student has different needs, so we still might have a need where we might need to look at a program or a support system, for instance, if a student has more medical needs. So we would still be collaborating with our counterparts with the Monterey County Office of Education, also with our neighboring districts. For instance, in Monterey Peninsula Unified, they have programs that really support therapeutic needs, so we would continue to do that. But I think for the most part, this is a really positive direction for us, and I'm really excited about it. So with
Can I ask
that,
a question?
yeah,
I'm
we can
sorry.
go ahead and move to questions.
So, on the number of students that may be appropriate for the learning center or the special day class, if you don't have 7 from Carmel Unified, would we outsource to get to number 7? Would you take in kids from MPUSD or PG Unified to get to 7, or would you operate at a lower number?
Yeah, so the first part of the question is, I can share that we've already been contacted by 2 districts, and so they are interested. And another reason is because, of course, the students were our students, so actually our neighboring district had to close their program for next year, and so they did ask us about that.
So would we take in students from other districts into our program, or is it not something that we'd look at in the near term, or is that more of a stretch goal?
That's something that because that would involve an MOU, so that's something that's being looked at in terms of the MOU, so that could be a possibility,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, I've got a quick one, a couple actually. So SDC would be multiple learning disabilities, wouldn't it? Or would it?
So we would really want to have a vetting system in looking at the appropriateness of the program. So it could be a student. We really want similar learning profiles. For instance, if we have a student with more emotional or mental health needs that needs more of a therapeutic program, that would be a different program than the program that we're discussing and looking at.
But the one you're looking at is mostly academic?
It could be, it's primarily academic.
Okay.
But it could be a student with speech that requires speech services as well, or occupational therapy.
Still not real sure. So you have the pull-out resource program, or push in to classrooms now for kids that need help in a single subject, usually, right? So in terms of a least restrictive environment, which this should be all about, middle school SDC can be problematic socially if a kid is mired in too much of it. So I'm just saying, actually I taught an SDC class back in the day in Pacific Grove. And but of course it was a different paradigm then, and all of this has come a long way. But I'm still wondering what that profile really looks like. It just a little confusing to me. So I don't know. It could be just me, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Ted?
because we've talked about this quite a bit. We have a group of students who are mainstreamed where that environment is not restrictive enough for their growth and potential. And so they need more support. They need more direct support. So when you're thinking of an SDC or a learning center type, program, we're not talking about putting 7 kids in a classroom for 7 hours a day and saying we have to teach these kids separately. It's the way most of these programs work. It's a home base. Kids come in the morning, they check in, they are mainstreamed maybe to classes that they're really good at, classes they're most comfortable in, classes that have a lot of support. The goal is not for it to be a life sentence. The goal is to help them, get the knowledge and skills that they need to be mainstreamed as much as possible. But what we have in some instances in this district is without an SDC program, you have 2 options: complete mainstreaming or out of district placement. And you have a lot of parents, and my heart goes out to them, who are like, there is no way I want you to bus my kid 30 minutes away, just put them full-time mainstream. And the students aren't progressing at the rate we would like them to because there's not enough support. Even with the push-in model, when you've got 25 other students in there and a lot going on, this is a good kind of medium between those two of the kid will only be self-contained to the degree that they have to. But most of these students, they're out and about numerous times throughout the day. And then if for some reason that environment isn't restrictive enough, that's when, as Steve said, you start looking at out-of-district placements. But you do want students that, have similar needs. If you have a group of 7 kids and that's working, and then maybe a student with a behavior disability is thrown in the classroom because they're not being successful in the general ed classroom, that could throw it off. So Steve and his team are going to have to work really hard to make sure this is going to be for a select group of students that have needs that can be supported in there. As Steve said, this isn't going to stop all of our out-of-district placements, but it's going to stop a lot of them. And we truly believe that these students can be more successful in this classroom than they can be in the general ed classroom with a push-in model, or we certainly wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah,
That helps.
I think that does help because
really helpful.
the fluidity was an issue for me. I didn't get the sense that it would be pretty mobile because, you're going to get kids wanting to get back to the mainstream, especially as the social pressures of being in school tend to increase. So I was just looking at the structure because, the old model with SDC was almost self-contained. With multiple disabilities, kids would be in there for a year. They might not return to it, depending on how they did, or they might continue. So I was just looking for a little more definition, and I got it. So thanks.
I have a couple questions, Steve, and
Okay.
Having worked in special ed, I know your Aubrey very, very well. So I'm super grateful that the district is moving in this direction. But I just want to say, the teacher that you have at the middle school for these 7 kids is basically heavily involved in each of their IEPs and will handle their own
Correct.
individualized curriculum from start to finish. So my question is, as these kids move into their extracurricular activities, will they still have a one-on-one aid on top of that to push into the classes? Or would that just require just a regular aid? Or would it be a special ed aid? And then my other question is, what is the level of education and credentialing that this teacher will have to serve all these individual needs of these 7 kids?
Yeah, good questions. So it really goes back to the students' needs. So again, we are looking at the appropriate staffing, and as the students do go into the specials or their electives, we would want to be able to provide the appropriate support. But it might be different from one child to the next, but we would want to look at the appropriate support for them. And I would expect that to be a part of, we're looking at programmatically having the appropriate staffing. And then right now, there are a lot of intensive individualized supports for students coming back because it's in an IEP that's something that has to be discussed within the IEP. And then there was a second part of your question, I think. Oh, for the teacher's credentials?
Yeah, that.
Right. So they would, for our teacher that's going to be in charge of the classroom, they would have a mild, moderate, and actually in our case, the teacher does have a moderate to severe credential, so they have the appropriate training.
Yeah, on that note, just out of curiosity, Steve, so a resource specialist that is just teaching maybe a single subject, what are the tiers of that particular credential? I'm just curious. I mean, can somebody that has a resource credential do this with SDC, or do they have to have an add-on to it of some kind in terms of training?
Yeah, for our classroom, it would be a different credential, and I don't know if Craig, you would want to jump in, since.
No, I don't want to make a big, just it's more of curiosity to me, because it used to be that if you had a resource credential, you could pretty much, do any of it. Used to be.
So the IEP of the student and their needs actually determines the type of credential that's needed. So if they are moderate needs, then you have to have somebody who has a credential that's either mild mod or mod severe. So you can actually have SDC classrooms that are moderate. You can have SDC classrooms that are severe, and that can determine which teachers. So the individuals who are typically your RSP or your resource specialist are typically those that have mild, moderate credentials. SDC can vary, and that depends on the program and the needs of the students that you're trying to meet. Does that make sense?
That does it. Yeah, that answers it. Thank you.
And Craig gave me a good segue to just kind of lean into on the first question you asked, Tess. I think it's important for all of us to remember those decisions, like one-on-one aids and all of those. They're not made by Steve. They're not made by Yvonne or myself. It's always an IEP team that's going to make those. So we can guess in general, but if that IEP team decides that a student needs a one-on-one aid, that's what they will have. In my experience, most classrooms such as these, you almost have an adult for every kid, because if you've got 7 kids in there and you want to send Johnny out to math and Sally out to language arts and Billy out to, wherever, a lot of times it's those aides that are going with them. And the classroom teacher is left with the kids who this isn't their time to be out. But the IEP teams will always make those decisions.
I have, sorry, Sarah.
Nope, go ahead.
I like the idea of taking some of the pressure off of the traditional classroom teachers, because I know that sometimes having students who need more one-on-one help really impacts a teacher there who's got 24 kids that are at one level, and then you've got somebody else in there, and so it's going to take some of the pressure off of that. But the parents are usually the ones who want them in the least restrictive environment. Are we going to have some way of, I can't even think of the other word other than to compel them to, at least consider these types of classes for them? Because I know that as an educator, we are looking at, the whole entire team that is going in there that is very well versed on all the educational modalities that is going to be best for this child. But the parent is, the one who's going to be signing off on that IEP as well and saying, I want my child in this other kind of environment. What are we going to be doing about, that situation? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so those are conversations, again, that have to occur within the IEP team meeting. What I could say right now is most of them have been very favorable and positive, and have, there's a lot of support in terms of the plan and for the classroom and the classrooms. So.
I think Ted captured it. It's going to be very specific, individually specific, and I was just more curious about the credentialing, and Craig kind of solved that for me in terms of the add-ons. So you'll know what's best, and the teachers will know what's best, the team will know what's best. But it is new for Carmel, and I think that, to me, the reward is that we do keep our own kids. To me, that's the big asset.
Thank you.
The SDC classes are not new to Carmel, though. We've had them before.
No, I know.
I beg to differ with you.
So, Ted, you need consensus from us on the plan?
Yeah, what I was, oh, sorry, were there other questions?
Okay. Okay, maybe you guys could have it after the meeting. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. Do you need
Yeah, I was
consensus from us?
just hoping, similar to the early one, to get consensus. This is obviously a lot of work Steve and this team have put together. We've got, I believe Craig has a teacher waiting to sign, but we wanted to make sure we were transparent with this and that we're all comfortable. So do I have anywhere between 3 and 5 thumbs up?
And we have space for it, right, Ted?
Absolutely. Dan's been
Okay.
working overtime.
How many thumbs are you looking for?
We have them.
We've got him. All right.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Steve. We
all.
appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Who? Tess? You want to go? All right. Moving on to agenda item 4. These are the closed session agenda items. So before we adjourn to closed, agenda item 4A is student expulsion readmission, Ed Code section 35146 48916 48912, student SSID 455456171. Closed session agenda item 4B is public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaints pursuant to Government Code 54957, subdivision B1. And closed session agenda item 4C, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, subdivision A. Agency designated representatives, Craig Chavez, Dr. Ted Knight, regarding represented and unrepresented employees, ACT, CSCA, and non-represented groups except the superintendent. And the last closed session agenda item 4D is public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54957, superintendent. So with that, we will go ahead and adjourn to close. I thank all of you for joining us this evening. Thanks to all of you who stayed for the duration of the meeting and for those of you that made public comment. We always appreciate hearing from you. Thank you so much. Reporting out of closed session, agenda item 4A, student expulsion, readmission, Ed Code sections 35146, 48916, 48912, student SSID 455456107. In closed session, the board voted to readmit student SSID 45545561071 to the district following expiration of the student's expulsion. The vote was as follows, unanimous. The board also voted to expunge the records of the student's expulsion except for any records required to be maintained under law. Closed session agenda item 4C, conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code 54957.6. In closed session, the board provided direction and parameters to the district representatives regarding agenda item 4C, which was the agency designated representatives, Craig Chavez, Dr. Ted Knight, regarding represented and unrepresented employees, ACT, CSCA, and non-represented groups except the superintendent. Thank you.